Gravedigger. My name is Nathan Barnett, and I am a former gravedigger from New England, and on this show I will read real stories from real people about real ghosts, goblins, ugly cousins, and everything spooky in between. And I am extremely afraid of everything. So this is a bad idea. Let's go.
Ooh, this one's just called They. Oh, baby. It's not too long. I'm going to read They. That sounds pretty scary. Alright, you guys ready? Here we go. I was 21 when Miss Duval hired me. I cleaned her house for one full season. From early May to late September, and then I quit. I couldn't stand it anymore. I was really frightened. Dun dun dun. Good way to start a story. Here we go. So I should say this. Most of these stories, it seems to be like Nantucket is a very expensive place to live. It's an island off of Cape Cod, Massachusetts, and a lot of rich people live there. I think Tommy Hilfiger lives there. There's not a lot of people. There's only 10,000 people on the island apparently, and a lot of the houses I think are owned by people who rent them out in the summer. So, like when it says we were staying, I think a lot of people were just staying in these houses, and then a lot of people talk about like we were fixing up the house because usually they rent these houses out to vacationing people. Just wanted to say that in case any of this was kind of confusing. Okay, here we go. I was born on Nantucket, and I'm one of those people who's sensitive to anything strange lingering in an old house. I know the moment I walk in the door. As a child, I lived with an invisible ghost in a house on the east end of the island, and so the whole idea of spirits has never seemed that odd. I don't welcome that kind of experience, but it has a way of happening to me. Miss Duval hired me to clean every week, whether she was there or not. Most of the time the house was empty while I was working. Sometimes she had guests for the weekend, so I'd prepare the house for them and then clean up after they were gone. But she is a meticulous sort of person, and she wanted me to go around and dust and vacuum everything, even if no one had been in the house since the last time I was there. On my first day at work, I brought my dog with me. He hopped out of the truck, ran up to the front door, and then wouldn't set foot inside. This is going to be a good one, I can tell already. Here we go. Lost my swap. I couldn't. Let me read that again. On my first day of work, I brought my dog with me. He hopped out of the truck, ran up to the front door, and wouldn't set foot inside. In all the time I worked there, he would always wait for me in the truck. I tried coaxing him in the front door, and then I tried the back. It was as if there were an invisible line that he wouldn't cross. I couldn't pull him, push him, or carry him inside. He's never done that at any other house. That dog's smart, and you're a dang fool. When I first stepped in the front door, I remember feeling the hair go up on the back of my neck. I thought to myself, oh no, here we go. There's something here. This is a good one. I like it already. At first, they started by doing insignificant, annoying things. They? Yes. I guess I always thought of the source of these goings-on as they. It felt like a group of presences in the house. It never seemed, at least to me, like a single spirit at any rate. I'd be cleaning and I'd hear the bleeping signal of a phone. What? Can I read these words? At any rate, I'd be cleaning and I'd hear the bleeping signal a phone makes when it's been taken off the hook. I'd put down my dust rag and go downstairs to find the telephone receiver had been lifted off and laid on its side on the table. I'd hang it back up. Okay, I'd say to myself, I can deal with it. I'd be vacuuming and sometimes I'd hear talking and laughter, the sound of a group of people. I'd shut off the vacuum and the house would be dead quiet. I'd turn it on, the voices would start up again. It wasn't an irregular sound in the vacuum motor or anything like that. It was definitely the sound of people conversing, the low and high tones of men and women talking. After a few weeks, the level of activity began to pick up. I'd be upstairs and I'd hear furniture being dragged across the floor downstairs. I'd gallop down the stairs and find that that a chair had been pulled to the other side of the room or a table dragged into the middle of the floor. Dude, you're a fool. Get out of there. They're going to drag you around the room. I'd say something like, look, I know you don't like me being here, but can you please put up with me for a little while longer? I'm just trying to do my job. Now, these disturbances only occurred when I was in the house alone, when Miss Duval and her family and guests were nowhere near the place. That's crazy. Isn't that funny how you always talk to the ghost? I guess it's just a human reaction to be like, you know, what else are you supposed to do? I guess you just gotta yell at the dang ghost and say, stop being a jackass. But my good story that I wanted to tell you that happened to me, I actually spoke to the ghost, and it was the scariest thing that happened. I'll save it for the next episode. Back to the story. Gotta keep you guys wanting more. Things got worse. I'd hear the sofa or a sea chest, something really big and heavy, scraping across the floor in the living room. And so I'd hurry down. At first I really wanted to catch them, to see who was doing it and whose voices I was hearing. I wanted at least to actually see the furniture being moved. I'd get downstairs and I'd hear the muffled thwack, thwomp sound of scattered rugs from upstairs being thrown over the railing behind me. Dude, the things are getting nasty. I keep losing my place. Oh, I lost my spot. Down there. Okay, let me just do. Here we go. I never did witness these things being done. I'd hear it happening in another part of the house and find when I got there that the objects had been moved. But when I arrived at the scene, everything was always as still as could be. At that point, it was more irritating than frightening. I was trying to straighten out and clean, and they were messing things up as fast as I was putting them in order. That's crazy. That much physical activity from a ghost, that's like intense. The house would be worse on some days than others. I figured I could put up with it as long as it was just silly, bothersome stuff. And I began talking to them the instant they acted up. Now stop, I'd say. You're making things awfully difficult for me. This is something I'm being paid to do, you know, and I need to get this done. It didn't seem to do much good, but it made me feel better. That's what it does. It calms your nerves. One day I went up to the attic, bad idea, where I'd been cleaning the previous week and found a really lovely picture right smack in the middle of the floor. Just like my keys. Told ya. It had most definitely not been there before. It was an old photograph of a little girl. She was all dressed up in what looked like her Sunday best. She had long hair and ringlets, a big bow, high ankle shoes that buttoned up the side, and a lovely frilly dress. The picture was in a gorgeous mahogany frame. I'd say it dated back to the early 1900s, maybe the late 1800s. I picked up the picture and wondered who the little girl was. I put it on the top of one of those boxes in the corner of the attic. I remembered Miss Duval telling me that the house had quite a bit of family stuff in it when she bought it. She had liked the old furniture and kept most of it around, putting away in the attic the things she didn't care for. The next time I came to clean, the picture of the little girl was downstairs on the telephone table. The house had been empty all week. This happened 4 or 5 times. I found the picture in the dining room and then in the bedroom. They obviously wanted me to see they had moved it. Dude. Super scared. I don't like this. I have goosebumps. Holy crap. Ooh, that's messed up. That's messed up. These freaking naughty ghosts. When I saw Miss Duval, I mentioned the photograph, just asking if she knew who the little girl was. She didn't know what I was talking about. I described it in detail. She gave me a strange look, for apparently she had never even seen the photograph. It disappeared shortly after that, again during a week when the house was empty, and I never ran across it again. I wish you could see, but it's super close to my face. I am so freaked out right now. It's daytime. Maybe it's nighttime now. I don't know. I'm in this dark room. I don't know what time it is out there. This is messed up. This is a good one. This is a good one. It continues. There's more. I didn't tell Miss Duval about my craziest experiences in the house. I didn't feel it was my place to tell her that stuff unless she brought it up, and she never did. I'd feel more comfortable in some areas of the house than in others. Certain rooms just seemed to have specific things attached to them. When I was in the downstairs bedroom, I sometimes heard the sound of a horse and carriage coming up the driveway, clear as it could be. I think the driveway may have been paving stones at one time, because I'd hear the horses' hooves, the sounds of their harnesses creaking and clinking, and grinding of wheels rolling over rock. Dude, that's messed up. It's a freaking ghost chariot coming to get you. I'd look out the window as soon as I'd heard the carriage, but I never saw a thing. That downstairs room had a very old-looking mahogany bed. It was short and narrow. Perhaps it was a child's bed. It had been in the house when she bought it. Miss Duval told me, and she seemed to feel it was quite valuable. I remember she told me to take special care of it. One day I was vacuuming under that bed, and something grabbed the end of my vacuum hose and held on to it. I pulled hard, and then the end of the vacuum, the attachment came right off. It wasn't stuck on anything. I had only been running the vacuum over the bare floorboards, and when I had pulled, it felt like someone was holding on to the other end. You know, there was a slight give to it. When I finally got up my courage to peek under that bed, it all looked as quiet and normal as could be. There was nothing the vacuum could have gotten stuck on. No exposed springs or fabric or anything. It was a good bit later before I dared to reach under there and get the attachment. Dude, I would have quit right then and there. Wow, so messed up. My husband fixed some plumbing in the house, and he noticed a funny thing. He'd take the hoses off the back of the washing machine during the time it wasn't in use and put them in the sink. They'd be thrown right out of the sink onto the floor. This happened over and over. He also felt that same back of the neck prickly sensation I had in the house, and he felt the cold spots. He could walk right into freezing cold areas in any given room. The change in temperature was hard to ignore. I mowed the lawn for Miss Duval during the summer. I used a hand mower, and it took quite a long time because there's a good big field out behind the house. I always knew that I was being watched from one of the windows. Watched by someone inside the house. I could feel it. I'd glance up quickly, really expecting to see a face, but I only saw the flat, blank reflection of daylight on glass. All right, we got one more page. It was when I started going in twice a week for shorter periods of time that it got really bad. I had thought it might be easier to stop in and do 3 hours at a time instead of staying for a full 6. It got so that I would unlock the front door and get the strangest feeling. I felt as though the house was too quiet when I stepped inside. It seemed like the place was full of people holding their breath. I got the impression that all sorts of things had been going on, that when I opened the door, everyone fell silent. Dude. Trying to jolly myself out of the feeling, I'd say, "Hello, I'm here. I'll be as quick as I can." I didn't have much success. Things began to get nasty. The furniture moving started happening behind my back every 10 or 20 minutes. When I was upstairs, I'd hear it happening downstairs. And when I was downstairs, I'd hear it happening up. All kinds of things scraped and bumped along over the floor. Objects were never carried. They were always dragged. I remember I ran downstairs once after especially noisy session and found all of the chairs arranged in a tight little circle in the middle of the living room. I hate this story. This one's freaking me out. That's too much freaking ghost activity right there. Wow. Dude, this guy, I don't know how he didn't quit a long time ago. Another time, while I was in the kitchen, all of the chairs in the outer room were piled up against the back of the kitchen door. Of course, I tripped over the chairs, knocked them all over in trying to get out. It was almost like naughty children, but it was also premeditated, deliberate feeling, and increasingly sinister. Something in the house was trying to get rid of me. Oh my God. One day, pictures started coming off the walls. A stack of dishes was moved with a noisy clatter in the kitchen. A rug flew through the air and hit me in the back. And I got whacked by some sofa pillows that zipped halfway across the room on their own. Finally, a chair was thrown at me. It missed me and I wasn't hurt, but that did it. I was afraid. Really afraid. I was going to get injured. My husband urged me to quit and I did. It was such a relief. They wanted me out of there and Lord knows I was happy to go. Holy crap. That story is called They. And this book is called Nantucket Ghosts. It's ghost stories that happen on Nantucket Island off the coast of Massachusetts, where I'm from.